Zayas versus Jorge Garcia Perez, aka Chino here. You have 33-4 Chino, and then you have Xander Zayas, who's 21-0, undefeated 22 prospect, quote unquote prospect, more so a rising contender, fighting in his hometown here in New York, representing for the island of Puerto Rico. And then you have Jorge, of course, who is a standard Mexican fighter. I went back and watched their last 3 fights. For Jorge Garcia, I went back and watched his last 4 fights due to the fact that he had a bunch of early knockouts. And I have quite a few thoughts on both fighters here for you. So for Zayas versus Spalmer here, you had Spalmer busted up after the first round, man. That was a ass whooping from pillar to post. Xander Zayas was doing an incredible job punching in between, punching first and punching third. Body. Just kept attacking the body, Spammer was beat on to Really, Spomer was beat to every single punch here for you. He was getting beat pillar to post here. I believe it was in the 4th round, if I'm not mistaken. And then he got lackadaisical, and then Xander Zayas got caught with the right hand in the last 15 seconds. That didn't necessarily hurt him, but definitely stunned him, wobbled him, and had to put him on his bike and put him on his back foot here up until the 6th round, give him a little bit of time to recover. Xander Zayas has really educated feet and is great side, same side body puncher. Punches the body with a left hook, and then it'll punch up top with the same side left hook without having to reset, without having to reload his hips, which I love to as well. Now let's go to the Zayas versus Teixeira fight. He had great feet in this fight. He was cutting the ring incredibly well. A great inside game versus Teixeira too as well. He kept turning Teixeira, which I loved. He would get off a few punches in combination, turn Teixeira, and then finish off with another rip to the body or rip off to the right to the head. Great levels punching and an incredible left hook. He was ripping that left hook both to the body and to the head for the Teixeira fight specifically well this fight. It could not miss, quite frankly. His left hook percentage, if I had to put an actual number on it, was touching over 60% of the shots. And Teixeira, who is someone that's long, lengthy, and I think will have a more similar body style to Jorge Chino Perez, even though it's not the same fight style, which we'll get into for his next fight when it comes to Zayas. In the 8th round, it was absolute domination for Xander Zayas over Teixeira. Almost got him out of there. Cut him over the right eye with the right hook, and then you saw him blast him in the 9th with the same right hook too as well, while catching him in a neutral corner. Quite impressive work here. Honestly, he was just willing to sit in the fire. He was willing to sit in the fire, and he was willing to throw anytime Teixeira was willing to throw. Comparatively to the fight with Sommer, where he was going 1st and 3rd, I felt like he was punching in between punches, and I thought that was really impressive too as well. That fight wasn't close. He beat the shit out of Teixeira. No disrespect to Teixeira, who was, quite frankly, a world contender, even if it is more so at a different weight class. Now let's talk about the Sosa fight, which I think is going to be stylistically more close to this Jorge Perez fight comparatively, say, to the Teixeira fight, who has the same body style. Xander, quite frankly, just stood in the middle and counterpunched this whole fight, especially for the first 7 rounds. Sosa doing what he does in the later rounds in 9 and 10, coming forward with a lot of pressure to where Zayas may not have, quote unquote, punched himself out, but definitely slowed down his feet and definitely slowed down his punch volume to a point. Sosa had moments of combination punching, but besides Zayas, his feet slowing in the later rounds due to probably the pressure and counter punching that he was doing himself, Zayas completely outclassed Sosa. And this fight wasn't close. Sosa is a tough customer, so I understand why the finish never came, but there were moments where the ref absolutely could have stopped it. One thing I'm overly impressed with Xander Zayas is his fight-over-fight improvement. He has all the tools you want when it comes to making a world champion, when it comes to marketing an up-and-coming fighter. He's only 22 years old. Incredible body punching, a powerful body puncher too as well. It's not just selective in volume, but it's powerful and it hurts people. He has educated feet, educated jab, really great pressure too as well. According to what Top Rank says in some of their commentary, he's only been outlanded 1 round in his whole career. They said that in the Teixeira fight that he's never been outlanded before. I saw that he was outlanded in the Teixeira fight. I believe it was round 4. And then outside of that, I don't believe of all the last 3 fights that I saw with the Sommer, Sosa, and the Teixeira fight, he wasn't outlanded once. He's defensively savvy too as well. Good hand fighting, underrated parry, good paw too with his right hand. His inside game is super solid. He has an underrated counter game, as we saw against Sosa too. So if you're looking for him to see if he can counter on the fight, he plants his feet against Sosa and did very well in that plant. And he's really good at going 1st and 3rd. That's one of my more impressive things about Zayas to me, is he will go 1st, pull, and then go 3rd. Besides the body punching, which I think is his most impressive aspect. So with that being said, let's talk about Jorge Chino Garcia, turning the page, because we have the pen and the paper out for this. Chino versus Conwell. Conwell did not fight a great fight, in my opinion. Not IQ heavy. Seemed like he didn't really want to be in there from the jump, even though he did fight pillar to post for all 12 rounds. Chino had a slow start for there. Combo had a lot of success to the body, which I think could be an issue here for Zayas because he has an incredible success to the body, maybe one of the better body punchers at 154. The punches that Chino were throwing were with Conwell. He wasn't going first, third, second. He was throwing at the same time, which I found pretty impressive, at least in the first 5 rounds. And then as we saw later where Conwell started to slow his own attack, you start to see Jorge Chino Perez going far more first and things of that nature. He whips a body shot. Long, rangy, stays at the end of the punches and whips the body shot. Leaves him open to be countered, but the way he whips him, you can hear the thuddiness of him and you can hear the impact of it. He does stand straight up with his long torso and leaving his chin exposed, and he can exit the pocket out of a straight line, which can be a sin in boxing, in my personal opinion. He's definitely willing to neutralize himself in his own corner, which I think could be also an issue against Xander Zayas, who's someone that has incredibly educated footwork, great at cutting off the ring, and great at putting you in a neutralized corner. Talking about the Abdu Kakarov fight versus Perez that was in Mexico. This was one of the least expiring performances I've seen of someone that a lot of people talked up this fight that Chino looked great. He was getting blasted, especially in the 2nd round and in the 5th round by Kakarov with right hands. He got caught with hooks both to the body and to the right. He threw a great uppercut, though, against Kakarov in this fight. A very underrated uppercut, as we saw with that whipping body shot, too, as well. His feet were slow and sluggish the whole fight up until rounds 9 and 10, where he really picked up a high level of volume and really put it on Bukakarov, in the last in 9 and 10. His dip uppercut and his power body shots were really good in this fight. Dipping his head, returning with an uppercut, dipping his head, returning with a body shot, and then punching those combinations. And again, his volume goes deeper as he gets into fights is far better. And then the first few fights we saw that for, he was knocking out guys like Renault Cap, who's a South African punching bag. And so he was getting 1st-round finishes before that. The one thing about Chino is I don't think he's great anywhere. Has slow feet, sluggish when it comes to his defense. He's lackadaisical and plodding on his offense. But the one thing is, lackadaisical is not the right word. I'm sorry. Plodding is the right word. His defense can be lackadaisical at times because he doesn't bring his hands back quickly enough for me. One thing, though, is he has high pace, high pressure, high volume, especially into the later rounds. He's very workmanlike. Now, let's talk about my final prediction here. I don't think this fight's close. I'm sure you guys can kind of tell by the bias in which I'm talking, but it's not really biased if you go and watch the actual tape. I thought if we were going to see this workman pressure style of fight work for him, it would have worked against Sosa when it comes to Zayas. I can see Zayas getting a stoppage in the later rounds here, 9 through 12. And I'm sorry to all my Twitter followers because I did post earlier in the week that I think this would be a tough test for Zayas. But that's just going off memory of how the Conwell fight went. But going back and re-watching and re-researching here, I can see this fight being, quite frankly, a 119 to 109, 118 to 110 kind of style scorecard for Xander Zayas, even him possibly getting a stoppage in rounds 9 through 12. So the way I see this fight going is I see Xander Zayas really putting himself on the map here, growing into his power, dropping Chino Garcia to the body once or twice in this fight. And I wouldn't doubt if he stops him here in the later rounds. So for my final prediction, give me Xander Zayas here. Give me Xander Zayas by stoppage rounds 9 through 12. If not, give me Xander Zayas by decision. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Much love.